If you ever want to know what betrayal sounds like, it isn't shouting. It's a soft, casual voice saying something that was never theirs to say. Mine came at 7:04 a.m., holding a wooden spoon. I was standing by the stove, stirring oatmeal the way I've done for half a century, when Haley marched into my kitchen like she was clocking in for a shift. She shut the drawer with her hip and said it, calm, sharp, like a paper cut. "Don't touch my kitchen, Maggie." My kitchen. The word hit harder than if she'd slapped the spoon right out of my hand. Steam fogged up my glasses. I wiped them slow, mostly for the sake of buying myself a second to breathe. Haley didn't wait, she never did. She grabbed the towel from my hands, folded it perfectly in half, and rehung it like I was some kid who couldn't get it right. "Like this," she said. "So it doesn't look messy." Messy? This kitchen survived toddlers, teenage boys, late-night snacks, and a husband who treated dirt like a fashion accessory. But suddenly I was the messy one. She moved from cabinet to cabinet, tapping doors, adjusting jars, checking alignment like she owned the place. "I'm just trying to make the house feel updated," she said. "Not so old." There it was. Not aimed at the kitchen. Aimed at me. Before I could respond, I heard Jason's car door slam outside. His familiar pause on the porch made my chest ache. He always paused, listening for life inside the house. He walked in, and instead of "Hi, Mom," or even a simple hug, "Hey babe, you in here?" he brushed right past me, kissed Haley, and only then tossed me a tired smile like a spare coin. "Hey, Mom." Haley grinned, sliding her arm around him. "Your mom keeps changing stuff. I'm just trying to keep this place consistent." Consistent. No, controlled. Jason didn't argue. He nodded the way men do when they don't want trouble. And just like that, in the house I built, in the kitchen I nurtured, I felt something I never thought I'd feel. Not anger. Not sadness. Just pushed aside. Erased. Like someone had edited me out of my own life. But Haley had no idea. Older women don't fade out. We go quiet right before the storm. And trust me, my silence was about to mean something. You ever step outside just to catch your breath? Only to realize you weren't catching your breath. You were catching yourself? That was the moment I knew Haley wasn't just rearranging my kitchen. She was rearranging me. After Jason and Haley finished their little inventory of the kitchen, I stepped outside to the back porch, my porch, where the paint peeled just like it always had, and the boards let out their old familiar groans when I walked across them. The evening air smelled like pine needles and cut grass, the kind of smell that used to pull my boys outside barefoot and laughing. Now the only footprints on the lawn were mine, soft, careful, like I didn't want the yard to notice me. I lowered myself into the old wicker chair. It creaked under my weight, same as it had for 30 years. And for a moment, the house didn't feel like a battleground. It felt like memory. Richard, my husband, used to sit right beside me on summer evenings. Boots off, cold lemonade in hand, saying things like, "One day, Maggie, this porch is gonna fall through. And when it does, I'll fix it. Promise." He never got the chance. Life has a way of giving you deadlines you didn't ask for. I let my eyes drift to the house. The siding had faded from forest green to something softer over time. The kitchen window still had the same latch Richard installed when Jason was little. I remembered the day. Jason kept sliding it up and down until he slammed his thumb in it and cried like the world ended. Richard held him and said, "That's how boys learn. Houses teach too." This house did teach. How to calm a crying baby at 2 a.m. How to stretch a meal when money was thin. How to patch a roof with stubbornness and faith. How to stay married when staying felt harder than leaving. This house held more of me than anyone alive even realized. But now, inside those same walls, a girl half my age was deciding what belonged and what didn't. Later that evening, I walked inside just in time to hear Haley's voice floating down the hall. "And we can move that dining table out. It's too bulky and outdated." Outdated? The table Richard carved with his own hands. The table where birthdays, fights, forgiveness, and Thanksgiving all happened. Jason tried to defend me softly. But softness isn't defense. Not against someone who wants control. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Some battles you enter too early. This wasn't one of them. What Haley didn't know was this. Every time she moved something of mine, She wasn't just rearranging the house. She was waking up a woman she should have never underestimated. And that woman was about to remember exactly who she was. If you want to know when an older woman finally snaps, I'll tell you. It's never during the loud moments. It's in the quiet ones, when the house goes still, and suddenly you realize you're the only one left remembering how life used to sound. I didn't follow Jason and Haley into the dining room. I didn't argue about the table. I just slipped down the hallway, letting my fingertips brush the walls the way I always had, half habit, half prayer. The pictures on the wall were the same ones that had hung there for decades. Jason and his brother in their Halloween costumes. Richard and me at the lake. Our first Christmas in this house, smiling like we had no idea how hard life would get. Or how beautiful. Last month, Haley suggested taking them down. They make the place feel cluttered, she said. We should put up something more current. Current meaning pictures without me in them. I walked into my bedroom, the only room Haley hadn't touched, yet. My quilt lay across the bed, soft from years of washing. The old lamp with the chipped shade warmed the corner of the room. And the cedar chest Richard built sat at the foot of the bed like a loyal dog. I sat down slowly, and the truth that had been creeping around the corners of my mind finally stepped into the center. Haley wasn't just organizing. She was replacing. Not because she hated me, but because she didn't see me. To her, I wasn't the woman who raised the man she married or the one who scrubbed these floors while 9 months pregnant. I was simply an outdated item on her list of things to fix. And Jason? My sweet, conflict-dodging son? He wasn't choosing. He was floating, following whichever voice was loudest. But my voice wasn't gone. It was resting. Women my age don't shout. We decide. I lay back on the pillows, the familiar scent of cedar and linen wrapping around me, grounding me. The house felt different now. Heavier, unsettled, like it knew something was shifting. When the lights finally went off and their bedroom door clicked shut, real silence filled the rooms. And in that silence, something old and steady inside me sharpened. Not anger. Not revenge. Just clarity. This house had a heartbeat once. It still did. I just had to remind them whose heartbeat it matched. And trust me, when an older woman decides she's done shrinking, the whole house feels it. And Haley? She was about to feel it most of all. You ever ask someone a simple question, and their answer slices you deeper than they meant it to? That's what happened the day I realized my own son, my Jason, didn't see what was happening right in front of him. I found Jason in the garage the next afternoon. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there staring at Richard's old workbench like the ghosts of every unfinished project were whispering to him. The tools still hung exactly where Richard left them, each one outlined on the pegboard in fading marker. Jason used to help his dad in here, handing over screws, pretending he knew what he was doing. I used to watch them from the doorway, smiling like an idiot, because those small moments were the ones that mattered. Now he stood there with his hands stuffed in his pockets, shoulders tight, eyes tired. Your dad kept this bench spotless, I said softly. Jason startled, then gave me that quick, apologetic smile. The one little boys make when they know the truth but don't want to say it out loud. Hey Mom, he said. Just thinking. About what? I asked. He shrugged. Stuff. I sat on the old stool Richard built. It wobbled like always. Jason, I said gently, when Haley says things about the house about me, do you agree with her? His brow tightened. Mom, she doesn't mean anything by it. She's just direct. Direct? That was one word for it. She told me not to go in the kitchen yesterday, I said quietly. He winced. A small movement. But I saw it. Yeah, he muttered. She mentioned something. She said you were getting in the middle of her system. Her system. For a kitchen I'd kept running longer than she'd been alive. Jason, I asked, do you think I'm losing my place here? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he nudged the old lawn mower with his foot like he needed something to hide behind. Mom, it's just easier if Haley handles things, he said finally. There it was. Not better. Not right. Just easier. Easier at my expense. I reached up and touched his cheek, the same way I did when he was 5 and scraped his knee on the sidewalk. Jason, I whispered. Peace isn't peace if someone has to disappear for you to have it. He closed his eyes, not in anger, but in shame. But shame doesn't fix things. Décisions do. And in that moment, I knew he wasn't going to be the one to stand up for me. So I would have to stand up for myself. And Haley had no idea that the woman she'd been pushing into corners was about to step right back into the center of the house, mine. You ever notice it's never the big blow-ups that push you over the edge? It's the tiny, petty things, so small you almost feel stupid for being hurt. Almost. 2 days after that garage talk with Jason, I woke up before sunrise like always. Old habits don't die. They just get quieter. The house was still. The kind of still that belongs only to the elderly and the early morning. When I walked into the kitchen, the door was slightly cracked open, and a warm strip of light cut across the hallway. Strange. Haley was never awake early. She stood at the counter with a mug of tea. My tea brand. Except she'd poured it from one of her modern glass jars with cold, clinical labels. She'd shoved my original tin behind her vitamin packets like hiding evidence. Her face tightened when she saw me, then smoothed into that polite tight smile she reserved for guests she didn't like. "Morning," she said. I shimmied around her gently and reached for my vegetable basket. Except it wasn't there. The counter was bare, clean to the point of looking unlived in. "Looking for something?" she asked too casually. "My basket," I said. "Oh," she replied. "I put your vegetables under the sink." They were cluttering the counter. Under the sink. Between bleach wipes and a bottle of bathroom spray. I opened the cabinet, and there it was. My basket shoved in the dark like some embarrassing secret. I didn't react. That annoyed her more than screaming ever could. Then she hit me with it. "I've been thinking," she said lightly. "It might be best if I handle all the cooking from now on. You get tired so easily, Maggie. And your cutting technique is uneven." Uneven. I cut vegetables for her husband for 38 years. He seemed to survive. Later that afternoon, she cornered me in the laundry room. Arms crossed, blocking the doorway like she owned the space. "You don't need to do laundry anymore," she said. "I made a schedule. Towels Mondays, bedding Fridays, clothes alternating." She handed me a laminated chart. Laminated. Like she expected it to hang in her house for decades. "My name isn't on this," I said. "Well," she replied, "your routines don't match our system." Then that evening, she moved my favorite armchair 3 feet back to face the TV instead of the window. Then rearranged the room like she was setting up a hotel lobby. Every change tiny. Every one loud. Every one designed to erase me gently. Or so she thought. But the thing she didn't understand? You can nudge an old woman only so long. Sooner or later, she decides the nudging stops. And the consequences start. Some days hit you so unexpectedly you don't realize you've crossed a line until you look back and think, "Oh, that was the moment I stopped asking for permission." The next morning felt strangely heavy, like the house knew something before I did. I made myself tea in my bedroom instead of the kitchen. Easier on my heart that way. The quiet didn't comfort me anymore. It pressed on me, like a reminder. Around 9 a.m. my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number at first, then it clicked. Mr. Keller, my lawyer. The last time I talked to him was after Richard passed, back when grief made everything blur. "Mrs. Brooks," he greeted warmly. "I'm reviewing your annual trust report and noticed a recent update request." "Update?" I repeated. "Yes, your son submitted a request to adjust management rights over household property." Household property. My heart thumped slow, heavy. "Keller, does that include the house?" A pause. A careful one. "Yes, technically." I sat still. Too still. "And if I don't approve?" I asked. "Well," he said gently, "in cases where the trust is considered mismanaged, the trustee can petition for decision authority." Mismanaged? By me. In my own home. And who is the trustee? I asked, though I already knew. "Your son, ma'am." "Jason. My boy. The one I raised with scratched knees and peanut butter sandwiches." I thanked Keller and hung up. Then I just sat there staring at the wall, like it was talking to me. Because in a way, it was. Haley wasn't just rearranging my kitchen. Jason wasn't just avoiding conflict. They were preparing for something bigger. Something that didn't include me. But they had forgotten one thing. Richard had warned me. Years ago, in one of those quiet, fading moments near the end, he squeezed my hand and said, "Don't let anyone decide your life for you, Maggie. Not even the boys." At the time, I thought he meant don't get lonely. Turns out he meant exactly this. By noon, I was sitting across from Mr. Keller in his office. He slid the trust papers toward me, thick, serious, intimidating. "Do you want to remove the house from the trust entirely?" he asked. "Yes," I said, without hesitation. He blinked, then smiled, quietly, respectfully. "I'll prepare the documents." And just like that, with a few signatures, the house, the home Richard and I built with sweat, bills, and stubbornness, came back to me legally and completely. No trust. No loophookes. No one else's decision. Just mine. When I stepped outside, rain had started falling. The soft kind. The kind that almost feels like the world whispering, "Good job." And walking home with those documents in my bag, I knew something Haley didn't. The next time she tried to take control, she wouldn't be rearranging my kitchen. She'd be rearranging her future. There's a strange kind of power in walking home with the truth tucked inside your purse. Like carrying a quiet thunderstorm no one else sees coming. I didn't go home right away. Not because I was afraid. No, that part of me died the day Richard did. But because I needed air. Space. Time to let what happened sink in. At 79, walking isn't what it used to be. But that afternoon, I felt steady. Solid. Like each step was stitching me back into myself. The rain faded into a thin mist as I wandered down the sidewalk past cracked driveways and lilac bushes leaning too far over fences. The neighborhood looked the same as always, but I didn't. By the time I reached my house, the sky was gray and the air felt thick with anticipation, like the world was waiting for something to shift. I stood at the foot of my front steps. White siding. Blue shutters Richard painted himself. A porch he promised he'd fix next weekend. To anyone else, the place looked ordinary. To me, it was 40 years of life layered into wood and breath. I walked inside quietly, shutting the door behind me. Their voices floated down the hallway. Haley's sharp tone first. "I'm just saying, if your mom keeps losing track of things, maybe she needs more help than we thought." Jason mumbled something back, too soft to matter. I stepped a few inches closer. "Jason, be honest," Haley pressed. "This house feels stuck. You feel it too. Don't pretend you don't." I stepped into the hall. They didn't hear me at first. Haley appeared with her arms crossed, eyebrows raised like she'd been waiting to critique something. "You went out in the rain?" she asked. "Maggie, you could have slipped." I hung my coat up neatly. Didn't say a word. Behind her, Jason shifted, guilt dripping off him like sweat. I finally spoke. "I went for a walk." Haley tilted her head. "In weather like this?" "You didn't need to worry," I said calmly. The calmness shook her more than anger ever could. She crossed her arms tighter. "Well, Jason and I were actually talking about you." Of course they were. "We're concerned," she said. "Maybe it's time to think about support. Or maybe even a smaller place for you." A smaller place. Like I was a piece of furniture needing downsizing. I didn't answer. Not yet. Because the documents in my purse answered for me. I walked past them silently, into my bedroom, and pulled the envelope out. The papers were crisp, sharp, final. Full ownership. Irrevocable. Mine. I locked them gently in my bedside drawer, slid the brass key beneath my pillow, and exhaled. Tonight, the house felt different, lighter, almost like it was breathing again. And so was I. Because Haley had no idea that the next time she tried to fix something, she'd be standing on ground I no longer shared with her. Sometimes you don't realize you're done being polite until the moment someone pushes 1 inch too far. And suddenly the version of you they've been underestimating finally stands up. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I was restless, but because clarity wakes you differently. I made my bed neatly, tucking the corners tight the way Richard liked it. Then slipped the small brass key from beneath my pillow. It felt warm, like it knew what it protected. By the time I stepped into the hallway, I could already hear movement. Haley's footsteps, sharp and fast, cutting across the hardwood. She always walked like she had an audience. I turned the corner and saw her standing in the living room. arms loaded with picture frames, my picture frames. Jason hovered behind her, hands in pockets, looking like he wanted to disappear into his own shoelaces. Without even saying good morning, she announced, "We're taking these down. I found some minimalist artwork online that'll make the space feel fresher." I didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even breathe loud. I just stepped forward slowly and placed my hand gently over hers, right on the stack of frames. "No," I said. She blinked hard. "Excuse me." "No," I repeated, Sunday morning. "Those photos stay." Her lips pressed thin. "Maggie, we've talked about this. We're trying to modernize the house. These old pictures clutter." "Then don't look at them," I said, steady as a stone. Jason shifted, eyes darting between us like a scared referee. Mom," he stammered. "Maybe we can just." Haley raised her hand, silencing him. That alone told me everything. "This isn't working," she said sharply. "You don't listen, you move things back after I fix them, you're creating tension." "I live here," I said. She scoffed. "You told us we could help keep things organized. That's what we're doing." "No. I correcta gently. You're rearranging me." Her face tightened. "Jason, say something." He swallowed. Hard. "Mom," he murmured. "Maybe Haley's right. Maybe it would be easier if." I didn't let him finish. Because the word easier had become his excuse for everything. I walked past both of them, opened the drawer beside the couch, and set my glasses down, calmly, deliberately. "I'm done explaining myself," I said. "This house will be staying the way it is." Haley laughed once, sharp, disbelieving. "And who exactly decided that?" I turned slowly. I did. And for the first time since she moved in, Haley's confidence cracked. Just a hairline fracture. But I saw it. Because she didn't know what I had locked inside my drawer. And she definitely didn't know her next move would be the one that finally pushed everything into place. Just not the way she planned. There's a special kind of quiet right before the truth hits a person. The kind of quiet where you can feel their world tilt. Even if they're still pretending it's steady. Haley stood there, arms crossed. Waiting for me to explain myself. Waiting for me to back down. Waiting for me to be the same soft, accommodating woman she'd been nudging into corners for months. But that version of me was gone. I walked to my bedroom without another word. I felt their eyes burning into my back. Jason's confused, Haley's offended, but I didn't stop. I opened my nightstand, slid the brass key from the drawer, and retrieved the envelope. Thick. Legal. Final. I carried it back into the living room and placed it gently on the coffee table between us. Haley snatched it up without thinking, skimming the first page with that quick, impatient way she read everything. Then she froze. Her face drained. Her shoulders stiffened. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Jason stepped forward. "Haley? What is it?" She didn't answer. She just handed the papers to him like they were hot enough to burn. Jason's eyes scanned the words. His breath caught. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "Mom, you removed the house from the trust?" "I did," I said quietly. "It belongs to me now. Fully." Haley's voice finally returned, sharp as broken glass. You can't just do that." I smiled softly. "I already did." "This is our home," she snapped. "No," I corrected, calm as ever. "This is my home. You are guests. And guests don't rearrange the host." Jason rubbed his forehead, guilt all over him. "Mom, we didn't want to hurt you. We just thought maybe you needed." "What I need," I said gently, "is respect. Not management." Haley stepped closer, jaw tight. "So what now? You want us to tiptoe around you?" "No. Iraplia. I want you to stop treating me like a problem to solve." Silence swallowed the room. Finally, Jason let out a shaky breath. "Mom, we're sorry. We really are." Haley swallowed hard, but didn't argue. That was new. That was progress. I picked up my glasses, slid them on, and sat down in my favorite chair. The one she'd moved without asking. "This house has a rhythm," I said softly. "And you're welcome here. But the rhythm starts with me." Jason nodded. Haley looked away, her pride visibly bruised, but she nodded too. For the first time in months, The house felt like it exhaled. Not because I won, but because I finally stood up. And maybe that's what getting older really is. Realizing your voice was never gone. You just needed a moment strong enough to remember how to use it. If you like my story, please like and subscribe my channel.